If you are made up of trillions of cells, and there are equal numbers of non-human cells in your body, how does your body know if those cells belong there or not? That's what we'll be talking about in this module. This information is coming from Chapter 17 of our textbook. And in this module, the goals are for learners to list the lines of defense that our bodies have, to identify the components of the human immune system, to recognize the benefits of vaccination, and to describe the goals of epidemiology and public health. So there will be 3 lectures in this module: an introduction to immune systems and the 3 lines of defense, a discussion of the adaptive immune system and vaccination, and also discussion of epidemiology and public health. One of the jobs of our immune system is to recognize cells that are self. So our immune system needs to know which cells belong and which cells don't. Pathogens are disease-causing organisms, and these are specifically the types of organisms that our immune system tries to eliminate. Now, it turns out that all cells, whether they're pathogens or self cells or non-harmful cells, they all have surface signature molecules. And these surface signature molecules are how cells identify each other. Foreign cells have a different set of signature molecules than self cells. And our internal defenses attempt to attack foreign cells, but not self cells. When we look at our immune system, there are 3 lines of defense. First, we have our external defenses. These will be both physical and chemical barriers. These are non-specific. They're just generally blocking everything from trying to get into our body. Then we have 2 lines of internal defenses. Our innate immunity is our second line of defense. It is internal but also non-specific. And it's our adaptive immunity that is our 3rd line of defense. That is specific, and we'll talk about that more in our next video. So the first line of defense is a set of physical barriers and chemical agents that prevent foreign aiders from getting inside of our body. Our body has several physical barriers, including an outer layer of intact skin, hair in the nostrils, mucous membranes lining the orifices of our body, and also cilia. Cilia are small extensions or projections that are movable. What we see in this particular image are the cilia that line our trachea or windpipe leading down into our lungs. These cilia help to sweep out the mucus that are produced and allow different pathogens and disease-causing organisms to get stuck in them, and then they're expelled out of our lungs by coughing. Now, unfortunately, it's these cilia that end up getting singed and damaged by people who smoke regularly, and that can lead to increased lung infections, in addition with a reduced ability to clear the airway of obstructions. And so if you've ever heard of COPD, chronic obstructed pulmonary disorder, it's also called smoker's cough, just this deep rattling cough. It's because their cilia have been damaged and they're no longer able to get the mucus full of pathogens out of their lungs. We also have external chemical defenses as well. Sweat, saliva, and tears all contain antimicrobial chemicals. We also have glands in the skin that produce oils and acids. So these are our external barriers: our skin, our mucous membranes, our sweat and saliva and tears. These are just trying to block any types of organisms from breaking through, getting into the inside of our body. However, when an invader penetrates the body's external barriers, whether through a cut or a scrape, some sort of bypass of these barriers, a set of nonspecific internal defenses that depend mostly on white blood cells act as our second line of defense, and this system is called our innate immunity. Now, this innate immunity is very effective at trying to attack anything that gets through, but it is nonspecific, so it's just going to try to attack anything that gets through and try to attack those things in the same manner, not in any specific or targeted way. So our innate immune system, this is our second line of defense. It is an immediate response to foreign invaders. Macrophages which are a type of white blood cell, will often engulf these pathogens or invaders through a process called phagocytosis. And that's actually what we're seeing in this image here, even if it's not instantly recognizable. The grayish-bluish background, that is actually one of our white blood cells, whereas the brownish-orangish structure on the inside, that is a bacterial cell that was present in a body, and that pathogen is now being encased, surrounded by the larger macrophage, and it is going to digest and break down that bacterial cell. Another aspect of our innate immune system is inflammation. Inflammation is a nonspecific immune response to tissue damage. If you get a cut or a scrape on your skin, it will become inflamed, whether pathogens were introduced or not. The damaged cells release histamines and prostaglandins, which are communication molecules, and those communication molecules cause a few things to happen. First, it's going to increase blood flow to the area, causing a general redness around the area that is inflamed. These blood vessels will become more permeable, so more of the liquid will come out of the blood vessels, causing swelling in that area. There will be a heat. You can think of it as a localized fever, because the cell is increasing its own activity in that area and also trying to inhibit bacterial growth. And there will be pain. The nerve cells in the area, if they are damaged or if they're just experience swelling from the pressure, they let you know that you have an injury or wound in that location. And the white blood cells that are traveling through your blood vessels, they are going to be attracted to the sources of these histamines and prostaglandins and try to just deal with any potential infection, regardless of which bacteria may have been introduced. So this is still considered to be a non-specific response. Inflammation results in 4 common symptoms: redness, which is due to increased blood flow; swelling, which is due to the blood vessels being more leaky or permeable, more of the liquid portion of the blood. The red blood cells do not leave unless there's injury or damage to the capillaries, but the white blood cells are able to squeeze through to get out of the blood vessels and go to that site of injury. Heat is one of the symptoms of an inflammation. Increased metabolism and phagocytosis by the white blood cells. And lastly, pain, due to pressure or damage to the nerve endings. These are the typical symptoms of inflammation. Inflammation has a goal. It is trying to seal off the damaged area. It is trying to deal with those pathogens that may have been introduced before they might spread to other parts of the body. Platelets, which are structures in the blood, they form blood clots, which try to prevent the pathogens from spreading further into the body. As I had mentioned, macrophages are activated during inflammation. And those macrophages are the white blood cells that try to eat other invading cells. So inflammation, this is a part of that innate immune response, our second line of defense that's able to be triggered right away. Our third line of defense is our adaptive immune system. It's our adaptive immune system that gives us the ability to resist specific pathogens. It's our adaptive immune system that's able to read the signature molecules and say, okay, with this signature molecule, I know this is the process I do. This is the response that I have. There are many specialized cells that make up our adaptive immune system. They're activated in response to antigen molecules. These antigens are those signature molecules that I was talking about. We have many white blood cells and many different types of white blood cells. In fact, over 7 trillion white blood cells in a typical adult human. And there are an assortment of defensive proteins as well, antibodies being one of them. Now, our adaptive immune system is actually controlled by our lymphatic system. One of the main functions of the lymphatic system is, as I mentioned, control of the adaptive immune system. Our lymphatic system is made up of lymph nodes and lymphatic vessels. It's made up of our tonsils, our thymus gland, our spleen, and even our appendix. Another function of the lymphatic system is to return tissue fluids to the circulatory system. When we look at the lymphatic system, it is composed of lymphatic vessels, which are a network of tubes. They're like blood vessels, but instead of carrying blood, they're carrying lymph or interstitial fluid back towards the circulatory system. And then there are these lymph nodes, which are little pockets of tissue along the lymphatic vessels. They contain large numbers of white blood cells. As this lymphatic fluid is passing through the lymph nodes, that fluid is being scanned for any sorts of antigens, any sorts of signature molecules for cells and pathogens that shouldn't be there. And if they find antigens that they recognize, the white blood cells in there are going to start a process to make a defense for our body against that particular antigen. It's the adaptive immune system that gives us our specific defenses. The adaptive immune system consists of a large collection of white blood cells that work together to present a specific response to infection. An immune system that learns. That's what we'll be talking about in the next video.